You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org. This episode of Pizza Quest is brought to you by Central Milling, hand-selected grain, expertly milled for passionate bakers. Central Milling is the farmer, the miller, and the baker working together to preserve American farmland for tomorrow while providing the highest quality flour and grains for the bakers of today. Dating back over 150 years, Central Milling is built on generations of knowledge, and they know that premium flour starts at the source. Employee-owned, Central Milling works directly with their farmers to sustainably grow grains that have exceptional flavor, nutrient content, color, and baking performance, which results in one of the largest selections of premium specialty flour and grains in the country. Hand-selected for the highest baking qualities, milled, cracked, or blended slowly to minimize heat generation, then bake-tested for performance. Learn more about Central Milling and their products at centralmilling.com. This is Peter Reinhardt, and I'm at the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas. We're on Pizza Quest, and we're in a whole new room. It was so noisy in the hall that we decided to move out of the hall, and we're sitting now kind of in the food court area. At the end of the day, things are winding down here at the expo, but I've got a great group with me. I'm sitting here with Steve Dolinsky, I'll just have to say it, the legendary, broadcast journalist from Chicago, Mr. Chicago, who also has the definitive Chicago pizza book. And we're going to talk more about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks with Steve and the Los Angeles Pizza Festival that he's helped organize. We're with Brian Spangler, longtime Pizza Quest, Pizza Yodi, and regular one of the founding members of the Pizza Talk series that we started right at the beginning of the pandemic. And Justin De Leon from Apollonia Pizza in LA, also the shooter of the cover shot of the new Pizza Quest book, and that's your pizza on the cover, one of your crown pizzas. And so we're so glad to have you here as well. So welcome everybody, and we're going to talk about whatever we can for the next 40 minutes or so to just celebrate the fact that everything that's going on here at Pizza Expo and coming up with Pizza Festival. So Justin, I haven't seen you in a long time. We did a Zoom, I think, at one time. We did an interview together, didn't we, on Pizza Quest on Zoom?
Yeah, probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
From your pizzeria. Yeah. You actually did a demo for us, I think. Made
That's
a pizza
right.
for us. Yes. How you been?
Been good, exciting, been busy, grateful, and so happy to be here in Las Vegas with all our peers, friends, and inspiring pizza makers.
A lot's happened for you since I last saw you, but it seems like the pizzeria is exploding. And at least if I were to go by Instagram, and what seems to be like, your ever-present photos there. But how's business? Has it been great?
We've been really busy. We're super grateful, and we've really grown in the past couple of years. Our staff has really stepped up and helped support me in coming through with my vision and my dream. And I think together, it's becoming something that I envision. It's always changing. We're learning, from the ups and downs.
Yeah.
But it's really a good time for us, and we're super grateful for what it's become.
I think that your photos, have helped to elevate the almost viral effect of Detroit-style pizza. These pan pizzas, because they're so beautiful. And the photos themselves are, I don't know, they have their own appeal, and certainly have helped grow the category. Pardon me. And one of the features of your pizzas, and I think everyone tries to emulate, is the crown. You create a cheese frico crown around the perimeter of the pizza, which I think you showed us on when we did the video with you, a little bit of how to do it, but I'm not sure we ever got all the secrets and all the tricks, which I don't blame you for if you're not ready to share those, because everybody I talk to says, how did he do that? And I said, I'm not exactly sure. He's got a few tricks that are up his sleeve. But anything you can tell anyone who's trying to make a Detroit pizza to get that cheese crown around the edge, anything you can advise them on?
For me, it's always been about the crust. I mean, if your crust is going to shrink,
yeah,
all bets are off with that frico, the crown.
Yeah.
So to me, it's always been important I bake for the pan. You can have the best dough recipe, but it may not be the best dough recipe for that pan. If you have a recipe where it's going to shrink,
Yeah.
you're not going to get your crown.
So
to
how do you
me,
keep it from shrinking?
you've got to adjust your recipe to fill the pan versus shrinking the pan.
So do you par bake your
I do
crust?
par bake.
So that you know it's not going to shrink once it's baked into the par bake. It's going to be what it is, and it's going to fit the pan.
I think at this point, whether it's going to shrink or not, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I don't I don't settle for anything less. So if it's not going to happen, I have to make it happen, and whatever it takes to make that adjustments,
Yeah.
I make them. But for the most part, I can't settle for anything less than a frico.
The Frico, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So folks, get a if you can get a hold of a copy, or at least look up if you don't have the book, look it up on Amazon or somewhere, Pizza Quest, and you see that cover shot is Justin's, and that Frico is one of the your challenges if you want to try to get into the game and do something like this. And you're sitting next to Brian Spangler. So Brian, we haven't seen each other in person for a while, but we did a panel today together.
We did. We did something.
A panel that you and I started together like 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Yeah.
As you reminded me today, I think our first panel was you, me, and Nancy Silverton.
That's
wasn't
right.
it? And we were fielding questions from the crowd. And then John Arena joined us. And then
He was on number 2.
And he was, and then the three of us did it for a while. And then Leo Spazzeri joined us somewhere along the line. And who else? There was somebody else that came. He wasn't there today, but John Gutekunst also jumped in at one point.
Oh, that's right.
And joined us. So we
that was the Pizza and Pasta show.
yeah,
right?
in Atlantic
Right.
City.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of great pizza masters be part of this panel. But we
Sure.
had like 250 people in the room today throwing questions at the whole panel on how they can make their dough better.
Right.
So how'd that go for you?
Great. It's one of the reasons why I keep coming back. As I was telling Justin, I walk through that hall with a tunnel vision. I don't need to go to these booths. I just want to see like friends, comrades, peers. But the thing that keeps me coming back is, it kind of comes back to you. When I was in 99, 2000, and I decided I was going to go back into baking, there wasn't a whole lot of information in the market, right? So there was the internet was still in its infancy in a lot of ways. You were one of the only bread book authors out there. And so I bought, like your book and Alan Scott and Daniel Wing's book.
On Woodfire,
It's funny how, in a short period of time, next thing I know, after buying those books, I'm living with Alan Scott. And then I'm meeting you a year later.
Yeah, Alan Scott, by the way, is the famous oven builder, for those who don't know. Yeah.
And then I'm meeting you while I'm apprenticing with Tim Decker, who happens to be in the back of your bread.
And he's one of my
books.
former bakers at my
Right.
bakery. Yeah. Small world. Somehow we got pulled together.
Yeah, but and I'm bringing this back to you because I feel like there's a lot of people in the industry like Craig Ponsford and Steve Sullivan who gave their valuable time to me. So for being here, like the thing that I enjoy the most is passing it on and inspiring others, and that continuing the path, right? So when I'm long gone, at least someone who have inspired is now doing it to somebody else, right? And so on and so on. So that's the real fun.
You're bringing
of all
it full
those.
circle now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you were one of my inspirations.
Well,
It was really, really weird how it just happened so fast. One day I'm buying your book. Next thing I'm meeting you on an apprenticeship. The next year, I'm working with you on the board of directors for the Bread Bakers Guild
of America.
The year later, you're at my bakery, and we're talking about pizza and barbecue.
What was that mountain that you lived on? You lived on a mountain in
Mount Olive.
Mount Olive above Shoal Valley or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next time I see you after that is you finally have American Pie, your pizza book, because you were talking about this.
Yeah.
And then you're in my pizzeria.
Not knowing it was your pizzeria when I went in there with the reporter.
This is like a 4-year span, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it all happened so fast. But you had told me when we were sitting on the mountain,
Right, we're eating
that one day
barbecue.
you're going to do barbecue and pizza.
Right. And I did.
And the next thing I know, she's bringing me to this new pizzeria to do the interview for my new book. And you walk out, and it's your pizzeria.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa.
And that was 20 years ago.
My
dude.
first question to you was, did you ever do the barbecue?
I did it on the weekends.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, no. So I'm having a great time. But the funnest part for me is, apart from seeing colleagues, friends that I like yourself, I don't get to see that often, once a year.
I don't
but
get to Portland as often as I used to, yeah.
It's the panel we do is inspiring people and answering questions, and
It's nice to know
keeping
that,
that going.
that the panel has worked so well for the expo that they keep inviting us back to do it again.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that's awesome. Well, now I really want to hear about this festival that you're doing, Steve, in LA, and it's coming up in like 3 weeks from now. By the time this airs, we'll try to get it on the air before the festival launches to let people know. But because we have so many podcasts that we're going to be going for the next 3 months, but we want to bump yours up to the front. Tell us a little bit about it and how you came to create it.
Yeah, and I will just add to what my friend said over there. It's such an honor to be here with you because I've read Perfect Pan Pizza before I got into a lot of this, especially with the festivals and with the second book. So it's just an honor to be here with you. April 29th and 30th are going to be the Pizza City Fest, LA.
So it's almost a month from now, right?
Yeah,
Exactly a month
yeah, about a month.
We're
So
at the end of March.
end of April, it's going to be at LA Live on the event deck right across from the Crypto.com Arena, formerly known as Staples Center.
No.
Up on, and a lot of people didn't realize that, yeah. And I'm sure when the crypto money runs out, that might change. But anyway, it's Crypto.com Arena. We're right across the street up on the event deck. It's a 40,000 square foot permanent tent that has open sides. And so the 7 pizza masters that we're having driven out from Wheeling, Illinois, and the 3 Earthstone ovens from Glendale, California.
Pizza Masters, you mean Pizza Master ovens?
Ovens,
Yeah,
sorry, yeah,
yeah,
where we're
yeah.
baking this live. It's like I went to an event in Chicago years ago, and they brought in pizzas that were made at the pizzeria, and I was like, why are you bringing them to this event and under a heat lamp?
Yeah,
It's just so unfair to everybody.
Right.
So we know we have to bake live. We did that in Chicago in July of last year, and so it's these are all 2-deck ovens. I'm not sure if they're 800 or 900 series. I know Spangler's worried about what model they are, but no, they're going to be.
He's very intimate with the Pizza Master
I know,
ovens. Yes.
but it's going to be a double deck, and so each pizza maker gets their own deck. And there's refrigeration right next to them. And so you're making fresh pizzas for everybody. You're getting a sample. You're not getting a full slice because that's ridiculous. You're not going to eat 15 slices, 20 slices. But each day there's 18 or 19 pizzerias at this site. Plus, we're going to have a collab lab that our friend Noel Broner of Slow Rise Pizza is working on. So every hour, like 1 hour might be Aaron from Quarter Sheets Pizza paired up with a farm. Or
I mean, they'll be creating something.
they'll be creating something along the lines of pizza.
And it'll be like a demonstration for the audience? Or?
It'll be a demo, and it'll be something to taste for sure. You'll be able to taste. Yeah, Akasha from Akasha Restaurant is going to be doing something with a great farm. Oh no, with Bub and Grandma's, which is a fantastic sandwich shop in Echo Park. So just really cool collaborations. Then we have demos. We've got lectures. Justin's going to be on a panel talking about what is LA style pizza. What does that mean?
That's interesting.
Right. So Fred Eric from Pie LA, and is it the gentleman from Cosa Bona or Antico? I forgot his name. I got to look it up. And Justin will be talking about what does LA style pizza mean?
Right. So you're talking about what's his name? Daniele Uditi.
So there's another panel. Well, Daniele Uditi is with Evan Funke and Andy Caden, who does all the dough for Nancy Silverton. They're going to be on the Dough Whisperers.
The Dough Whisperers.
The Dough Whisperers,
That, that sounds like our Dough Yodis.
Sounds
Pizza
familiar.
Yodis, yeah, the Dough Whisperers is a great name.
We're going to have, there's a conversation with the Chef's Table Pizza. So Brian McGinn, who produced that, is going to be talking with Chris Bianco and Ann Kim. And then it's going to be moderated by Karen Palmer, who also writes about pizzas and things in L.A.
You put on quite a program. Is this a 2-day program, did you say?
It's 2 days, yep. We feel like there's so much to talk about. You can't do it in one day. Chad Colby from Antico Nuovo was the other gentleman who's on the What is LA Style Pizza.
Okay, so that's the LA style.
Yeah.
So that's, maybe we get back there because we had a talk just recently on Pizza Quest with some folks from Texas, and they were lamenting the fact that there is no such thing as a Texas style pizza.
Yeah.
And so we invented one right on the air while we were talking. We said, what would it be? What would it look like? What would it taste like?
And I'm not even sure if there is a specific LA style, but I will say LA means so many different things. It could be Korean toppings. It could be dashi being used to make the dough, which is what Fred Eric does. He actually has kombu that he uses for his water to impart some umami into his dough. Really, I mean, you don't see that anywhere else in the country. So I just want to, as a consumer and as a professional, I always straddle that boundary, and I want to do things that appeal to professionals. Really dive deep and into minutia, but also people who just like to eat pizza and want to understand it better. And maybe they make pizza at home, but they have an uni and they're just starting out. Like I think that there's, here at the expo, it is so granular. You talk about, Ezo, and you talk about Grande, and you talk about, this guy's ovens gets to this temperature and how intense. But at the end of the day, like, people just want to learn about pizza sometimes. And like for someone like Justin to share his passion, and they can talk about, what is a frico? We take that for granted, but I think it's important to teach people what is an undercarriage. I want to teach people some of these basic terms too.
The words and the language and the vocabulary.
Exactly.
To be able to get even deeper into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that is frustrating for somebody. I know I'm frustrated when I'm trying to say something and I don't have the word. I can't put my finger on the word, so I use 20 words that aren't precise enough when there's one word that will do it.
Because we have a tour business in Chicago, and we see a lot of people who just like to eat pizza, and they're from all over the country, all over the world. And so we teach them about the vocabulary and the terms so that they can be smarter consumers.
Well, you've really been zeroing in on pizza lately, but you've done stories on every facet of the food world and have won so many James Beard Awards that I've lost count of them.
13.
13. Oh, you haven't lost count? I'm glad to know that.
I don't lose count of that.
Yeah. But now, you've kind of moved into, so is the tours that you're talking about specifically pizza tours, or is it food tours of Chicago?
I've done food tours just that are general in the past, but no, the company that I have, Pizza City Tours, started based on the book that I did.
Okay, so this is a relatively new company.
So, 5-6 years. Oh. So this May begins our 6th season for our tours. We do Chicago being Chicago, you do May through October is your season. That's our tour season. So we do 3 walks and 1 by bus. But that tour business has been going well. We do, it's open to the public. We do private tours. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm going to throw out a question now that I think Brian will know where I'm coming from on this. But I want you to answer, because an article just came out last week about Chicago-style, thin-crusted, parlor pizza. Yeah. What is it? NG?
Kenji.
Kenji. That's right. Kenji wrote it. So it was New York Times, but it went, syndicated across the country. Even in my local Charlotte paper, that article was there. And Brian, told me like a year ago, he says, I'm getting, obsessed about parlor pizza, and we wanted to do
it was actually like 3 or 4 years ago when we started the Pizza Talk series.
Yeah.
And we were just like, what else can we talk about? And you're like, what's the next big thing? And I said, well, I think it's going to be this. In Chicago, it's called Tavern. In Jersey, it's called Bar. On the West Coast, it's called Parlor. They're all kind of crackers, using cracker as an umbrella. And I said, that's going to be the next big thing. And
I didn't
right as rain.
believe it at the time, because I've never liked the thin cracker crust myself. I always wanted more bready crust.
Right.
But you were right, because now it is the rage.
Yes.
And a lot of people are calling it bar pizza, as you said.
Well, in Jersey, it's called Bar.
Yeah,
which is very similar. I mean, they all have extreme similarities.
The deeper, the longer story, wasn't it like Shakey's or Straw Hat or some company like that kind of pioneered that style?
Well, no. Through my research, I'm going to say Shaky, that was his nickname. He had PTSD from the war and the Korean War, so and I can only imagine, there's no documentation, but he came back through probably Chicago as being a hub, and experienced this style of pizza, but it was served in bars. So in 1952, he started the Ye Old Pizza Parlor, Shakey's, which was a lot of similarities, but family oriented, right?
No.
And that was in Sacramento, I believe, right? His
Correct.
first
The
one,
original
yeah.
location was Sacramento,
of
California,
course-
1952.
But in Chicago, of course, we were doing it in the 30s.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
After
So-
Prohibition.
And,
That
after
style
Prohibition,
existed already.
and then in places like Home Run Inn Pizza, which was just a bar on the south side near Comiskey Park, they became an official pizzeria in '47. But they'd been doing pizza there as a freebie, for years, for sure around World War
Just to get people
II,
to buy more,
just to
more
get them to
booze.
buy more beer. Yeah.
Wow. So Chicago really, this style really can predate Shakey's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
And it's never gone away. Obviously, Home Run.
No,
has been around.
it's been around. I mean, that style. Kenji also went up to Milwaukee. They went to Zaffiro's, which is a great place. There's another place in Racine, Wisconsin called Wells Brothers. I mean, they do the same style. I went to school in Madison, Wisconsin. I mean, we had tavern style pie always as kids. It's so funny. I had Shakey's in Minneapolis in the 70s. I don't remember it being as cracker, crispy, thin as what I've had today. But
Yeah, the funny thing is, your memories of what it was like when you're a kid and you get so far. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Peter, you even wrote about this, right? Is it that I've changed, or
Right.
did it change?
Yeah, exactly.
Or have we both changed? But you hold on to that fondness. It's like that first love. Maybe it wasn't the pizza. Maybe it was the setting,
Yes.
the experience,
context of
right?
it, yeah.
Right, exactly.
And even Adam in the new book in Pizza Coast, Adam Kuban has a bar pizza recipe in there.
He's been actually
really
has been doing research on this quite a bit, and he and I have exchanged some notes and also historical notes, trying to track the history of all this, right? Because it's not really documented. It's a lot of
Word of
stories,
mouth,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a lot of word of mouth.
anecdotal.
Yeah, and then Kenji and I talked for his article. Just saw him recently after it had already published, so it was great to see him. So we kind of followed up. But yeah, it's funny how after I did all my research and kind of honed in on this formula, I started sharing it with people who are in Chicago and in Kuban, who's been doing his thing on the Jersey bar style.
Yes.
We start sharing notes, and it's like we're just off by a couple degrees, really close. But almost all of it is there's a very common thread that runs through all
It's
these.
interesting. The timing is such, that the zeitgeist is okay, it's the time. The moment has come for the revitalization.
People
of this
want
stuff.
crushable pizza.
And what is
They
it
want to
that-
be able to crush pizza.
And so why do you think this style is getting so much traction right now? Is it because that there's very little carb influence? It's such a thin crust that you can.
I don't think carbs has really anything to do with it. I think it has to do with the fact that it's crispy, texturally it's great. But yeah, it's not. You can have a bunch of slices and not have it's not a gut bomb, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's also a little bit of nostalgia. Nostalgia is everything has a way of going through cycle.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to Kenji last week about all this, he wasn't connecting the dots of the tavern bar style and the West Coast parlor style. He was thinking these are worlds apart when they're not.
Interesting.
And more people actually grew up with this style of pizza than they care to or not care to think about, but then they've thought about it. It's actually just been sitting there dormant for a while.
Does the St. Louis style
That's
fall in the category of
that's in the wheelhouse, yeah.
another variation? Justin, are you seeing any of this in LA? Any of this style popping up?
Not necessarily. I don't think at the moment I can even pinpoint to where to go for a bar pie. But I love them. I'm hoping they come to the city soon because it is a fun, different pie than what we're used to. So
Yeah, but yeah, there's something that when you get that crackle crumble effect of the thin crust, there's something I don't know alluring about that. We love that sound. We love that crunch.
And then when everything goes to the edge, they all, the sausage to the edge, the cheese to the edge, the toppings to the edge.
And
all
when-
these styles have that. It's a very common thread.
And when you've pinched a little bit of raw Italian bulk sausage that has just the right amount of fat
Yeah.
and fennel in it, along with some giardiniera,
Yes.
sprinkled evenly across the pie, and then you bake it for 12 to 15 minutes, you get the most Chef's kiss, delicious, thin, juicy, spicy, fatty, rich, just delicious pizza. I love the contrast, that briny, crunchy spiciness you get from the Giardiniera, which is such a Chicago thing, which we're insisting on having at our LA event, by the way, and I'm going to blow Justin's mind. Caruso Giardiniera from Bridgeport, which is Southside Chicago, is going to be there.
Oh wow! So I take it you're a fan.
I'm actually working on this, and I'm going to break some news right now. I'm working on a branded frozen thin crust tavern style sausage Giardiniera in Chicago right now.
Well, you heard it here first. And,
Rad.
well, good luck on that. And
Congratulations.
yeah. So when you
Nothing yet. I hope we have it, but nothing yet.
Okay.
all right, well, it's in the process.
Positive juju.
Yeah.
So so this is like this style is back with a vengeance. What else are you seeing? I mean, Chicago is certainly for a long time. Chicago had to take sort of a backseat to New York in terms of just perception. But whereas all along Chicago had a much more diverse array of pizzas than New York, and certainly as many great pizzerias as New York. And now it's starting to get its due.
Perception is really important. It's one of the reasons we're doing Pizza Fest, to kind of shine a light on places that don't get national press. If you're in New York in that ecosystem, if you're and taking nothing away from like Mark Iacono or Frank, but they're like close to the offices for Vice or Munchies or Bon Appetit, or all those producers are right there.
Yeah, the media's
so
there
meat is there for them.
Yeah.
And so we have a harder time in Chicago. Part of the problem is a lot of comedy writers who went to Northwestern, in the 80s or 90s. Remembered stuffed pizza, and they conflate it with deep dish. It's a separate style. We don't all eat Giordano's, every day. That's more of a downtown sort of visitor pizza. And the other thing we're seeing now is a lot of third wave deep dish, like George's. This guy, he's basing it on a Greek recipe. It's kind of like a focaccia, but he's using an all natural starter. You don't see all natural starters anywhere for a deep dish.
Yeah.
Also, Millie's pizza in the pan. Robert Molesky, who's at Pizza Expo, doing a very different kind of a Burt Katz Pequod style.
Yeah. And Pequod has its own cachet. I mean, wasn't it baked in a cast iron pan?
Not cast iron, but it's got a frico. It's got a real caramelized edge. It's a riff on Detroit, I think. I think Burt Katz started it because he saw it in Detroit in the 50s, and they got it from them. It did it in a round pan.
The reason to get to Pequods is to get that crunchy.
That's the whole point of it. Yeah, the bottom 2/3 of Pequods is way too much. They overwhelm the pizza. I think there's a ratio problem. And you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I agree.
That's very interesting.
Where would you put?
I didn't know that.
When I was on tour with you. Where would you put Labriola's? That pan pie we had at Labriola's, that really blew my mind. Like, where would you put that in the
That's a deep pan. So deep
okay.
dish is that sort of biscuity, flakier, crisp crust pressed up along the edge, inner wall.
Yeah.
Like my pie, I took Justin to.
Right, we went there too.
Versus deep pan, which is a little thicker focaccia, like bread-like.
But I remember it wasn't that thick. Like it was.
It wasn't. That's the thing. People
so
think
good.
it was like maybe an inch and a half.
The
It wasn't-
ratio on it.
The ratio was great. I'm glad you appreciate that
Oh, yeah.
ratio. OBR, by
What
the way.
was- yeah,
Peter.
exactly.
You can use OBR if you'd like. Optimal bite ratio.
Optimal bite ratio. Again, you heard it here.
I was about to do that. You beat me to the punch.
OBR. Optimal bite
Yeah.
ratio. Love it.
Next time you're in Chicago, go check out Labriola.
Labriola. We'll do.
Labriola. It
Definitely
was
will.
like I had a lot of great
You
pizza
really
that
enjoyed
day,
it, huh?
but that one was.
And as both
was
of you guys will agree, great pizza making is bread baking, right? And so Rich Labriola was a commercial baker. Yeah.
His breads are famous.
Yeah. So that's why the pizza's so great.
So he's kind of going back into the pizza side. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now you did do a Chicago Fest, right? Did you do a Chicago?
In July, yeah, we did a
Was that the first
Yep.
of your series?
That
or
was-
had you already done one before?
that was the first
So
one.
you launched it, and so then you got LA coming up, and what's next after LA?
Chicago Part 2 will be August 26, 27 at the Salt Shed, which is a cool new music venue on the Chicago River. But we've got our whole lineup ready to go. We'll announce it in about a month.
Well, you in LA, I know you're working with Noel Broner, who is a great sort of what's the word, impresario in his own right, but he knows LA. So do you have somebody like him in Chicago to work with you there, or is it all on you?
That would be me.
You're the guy.
Yeah, I mean, well, who else
You
knows
own
more about
Chicago.
Chicago?
You are Chicago. And what are other cities coming?
Nothing confirmed.
So
but
far, Chicago and
just
LA.
Chicago and LA will be every year. I would like to see something in the Southeast. What do you guys think? I think
You
underserved.
mentioned, was it Memphis?
Nashville.
Nashville?
I think
That's right,
Nashville would be
Nashville.
a good spot.
Food city, but I don't know.
It's not a pizza town.
No.
All due respect, Nashville. I love you, music town, music city. But I think we could make it a regional event and do Atlanta, Indianapolis, Louisville, maybe something in the Carolinas. I don't know that area. I got to curate it, but I feel like Nashville could be the base for that.
It's a possibility, especially if it's regional. What about Philly? I think of Philly as a town ripe for that.
I think you're right, and I just don't know enough about Philly. And I like Jersey also, but I think Philly could be a good place to do it. I just don't know enough about. I know like 2 pizza places there.
Well, I can hook you up with some Philly people who can, be your deep throat, on this.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, good. Yeah, and my family will be happy if you do a Philly pizza festival because that's where they all are. So, well, this has been fun. It's been great. We're at the. There's still one more day of Pizza Expo tomorrow, but I won't be here for it. I have to fly back for meetings back home. So, I've spent 2.5 days collecting some great, conversations with people here. We've got enough shows to air for the next couple of months. Somewhere in the middle of our airing of the shows, the LA Pizza Festival will happen, and then Brian and I will be periodically getting back on Zoom and doing. Our pizza yodis. We have a couple of shows that we haven't gotten to that we've talked about doing, including a
the
bagel
bagels,
show. We're
right.
going to do a bagel show. We're seeing again a resurgence of bagels. Tony Gemignani talked about it in his keynote address that he opened a bagel shop in San Francisco. But there's a lot of guys from the pizza side getting into breads and bagels. And there's bagel guys. Philadelphia, of course, has a great pizza guy, Phil Korshak, who then is opened a bagel shop that is killing it with lines around the corner. So I think we're going to see, in terms of trends, a lot more of that. So there's a lot. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. In 2 days, we just scratched the surface on things to talk about. But we're so glad that you guys could join us tonight. And I just want to thank you and also all of our listeners for being part of Pizza Quest. And we invite you to join us next week for another episode. Brian, Justin,
Steve.
I'm sorry. This is like the end of the show, right? You're losing your voice and I'm losing my brain cells. Steve Dolinsky, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
And I think we're all going out for dinner.
Yes, we are.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Peter.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Peter.
Pizza Quest is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.